If I've seen it once, I have seen it 1,000 times. Everybody says that they want to see Marvel and DC bring new, fresh ideas and characters to the table. But for every time that Marvel and DC have taken the bait and introduced one of these new characters, pretty much every time in the last 20 years, those characters have died on the vine, receiving very limited support and becoming a ghost. I've actually seen milk cartons that are trying to figure out where Sideways is from DC.
Dude, that's who I was gonna bring up too.
That's wild.
I love Sideways.
So the question is, for as much as people say they do, does anybody actually care about new Marvel and DC characters?
This is a tough one for me because I do, but I know I'm in the minority. Like for me, when I started reading comics, my favorite title was Avengers: The Initiative, which that was its thing. It was like Cloud9 it created, Hardball. I'm trying to think of Trauma. I was a big Trauma fan.
Trauma,
Yeah,
yeah,
Trauma was
yeah.
Nightmare's son. And I thought it was awesome to see like these younger characters created, that was kind of been on the ground floor of. It felt like I was getting to something before it was cool. Like when I was
That was
listening
a
to Chapel
moment.
Roan last year. But it doesn't stay. And I don't know if it's because those characters when they're created, they're kind of the babies of their creators. And new creators, once they're on a title, they want to do that same thing. They want to create new characters. So it becomes a perpetual cycle. Or it's because people want to play with the characters they've always played with as kids. Like as a creator. If you're doing Avengers, you want to play with Thor, you want to play with Iron Man, you want to play with Captain America. Do you really want to play with, I don't know, Tigra? That was everyone's going to say yes to that one on this panel. Never mind. Wrong choice of a character.
Spider Boy.
Sure. Like that's a Dan Slott's baby, you know? So I just think it's why use a character when I can create one. You know, I can do my own Spider Boy. I can do my own thing. So I think from a creative standpoint, it's tricky. From like a fan standpoint, it's just that's just the comfort food. You know, your comfort food is Spider Man. I mean, we did a whole episode about it. Not to date this video, we did a whole episode about how Spider Man is just comfortable for people. So of course that's going to be what they want to buy, rather than I don't know Hollow's Eve or something like that. So I love new characters, but I kind of understand why they're not as popular.
I like that legacy point. I think that that makes a lot of sense. Like if you grew up reading these characters and you see them, everywhere, especially in the universe that you end up writing for, you want your hand at those things. And for the characters that other people create that are new, it's hard to build an audience for those things. So if you're if you're not into it, then the audience presumably won't be into that. And so uh, I think, yeah, unless you can get a new character over, and the only one that comes to mind for that is a Miss Marvel, then it's hard to want to be able to write and draw for that individual character. You can by a mandate, let's say, or we got to sell this book and you got to put a title out there. I think there was that Spider Boy title, and that for us creatively landed a bit flat. I don't know how many fans of Spider Boy there were to help support that book, but it was a mini. Someone got to write it, and that's it. You're in or you're out. But I don't know. At least anecdotally, somebody who's clamoring and going, "Wow, I really missed that Spider Boy title." It's like, no, I'm back on the main line. Give me the mainline book.
Which is kind of funny because Spider Man's going to be in the mainline Spider Man book coming up, or Spider Boy is going to be in it. But yeah, no, I totally get you.
I wonder if people want to see them like on the screen. Like we have said often that the the people who want these characters and this diversity, so to speak, um they don't show up for the books. But comics aren't always accessible in you can't always get a hold of them. You know, they're not always physically accessible to whatever extent. You know, there's not always a comic shop. There's not always internet access. There's not always, you know, any plethora of reasons. But I think there's also still a conversation about, you know, you can still have a conversation that revolves around the fact that these things still exist. You know, we're still here talking about the same four characters, whereas the rest of the world is like, are you telling me Batman's not a woman yet? Wait, you know, I, I, I just, I wonder if there's a world where the broader mass of people that are asking for this type of thing want to see the world reflected in the way that, you know, like Marvel says they do, but somewhere that's not in the comics.
I think there's a lot to that because, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, you would know better than me. But I feel like Batgirl and Supergirl were pretty popular when they were first created and first hit mass media because it was Batman but a girl. And that could appeal to teenage boys the same way Batman does. But what it also gets to do is appeal to girls who now
Sure.
can see themselves in her. And so I don't think that what people are asking for is too far away from that. Like it's coming from the same place.
Yeah.
And then also somebody like Miles, right? He's a perfect blueprint for how it can go right. I don't think that you can just look at that and just replicate that. But
Right.
it went right. People were saying we want this, you know, or there's this idea that people want this, and then Miles Morales comes around and he is that, and people support it. But he made it to the big screen
Yeah.
with the Spider-Verse stuff that people are absolutely obsessed with. So there's some merit to that. But you could say, on the other hand, Miss Marvel, you know, she's another big success. We say the movie, you know, not so great, or it didn't do so hot, I should say.
Yeah. Sales wise. Yeah.
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 But how do you do that for something like, or for someone like Jackpot, right? New character. How are we getting her out the door? Like, what's moving the books? What's selling that, as opposed to the Miles Morales or the Miss Marvel? Like, that's the hard part.
Selling a white lady redhead, a redheaded white lady. You think that's the hard part?
It's also Mary Jane, who is pretty well known and has been in movies already. And I think trying to sell a big change to that character is tough enough.
Hmm.
Well, let's take Marco's question and change the character. Let's make it Hallows Eve, because
Sure.
I think that's a good example. You could even say somebody like Punchline from DC, you know,
Sure.
newer
Okay.
people that, you know, comics fans have, because there's a clamoring for some of these characters. It's just not enough, or at least it doesn't feel like enough, because when their book comes out, then it doesn't sell so great, and then they go ghost, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what is the path? What has to happen for a Hallows Eve to get to that level, or is it just not going to happen for whatever reason?
I think it needs the backing of the company. Like, I think Miles worked because it was marketed well. There was a big hype for it. It was like, oh, this is happening. There's going to be a new Spider-Man. Who's it going to be? Peter, Ultimate Peter's dead. There was a huge kind of swell of this. Something big is about to happen. It happens. The reprints are insane on it. It becomes like a speculator issue, and they run from there. I feel like they're too afraid, or most publishers now are too afraid to put in that much, I guess, work, really.
Well, and one other, Miles also had a couple of different steps before he really took off, right? Like,
Yeah.
so Peter Parker died, and then Miles took over, but then Miles also had that crossover, you know, in the Spider-Man book, which was always the question everybody wanted to know. They always said the Ultimate line would never cross over. Oh, but we have a different Spider-Man now. That pulling that trigger, I think, is what really got Miles on the path. And I think that's what a lot of these companies won't do, is they won't tell that story like Punchline. Well, Punchline would have to cross over with Harley Quinn at some point. If that's they beat the crap out of each other, or if they go on a Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants road trip together, and still beat the crap out of each other, but they realize that, the Joker is bad, and that's the story.
I think it needs creative support too, because Bendis did help Miles. Like, that was a continuation of Ultimate Spider-Man. The numbers, I mean, eventually changed, but that was a singular vision, and he stuck with it.
Yeah,
that doesn't really happen anymore because nothing really lasts in comics anymore. In terms of longevity of titles, there's too many. We talk about it all the time. There's too many jumping off points, which means too many points for characters to become stagnant.
I feel like a lot of times the problem actually becomes that a creator is too synonymous with a character and other people don't even do anything with them. Bendis, it's like him being the guy was what took Miles over the top. Because I think the Miles idea was awesome and cool and, thumbs up. But let's say that Miles was created by somebody else without the pull that Bendis has.
Cody Ziegler, who's doing the book now.
Sure. Does Miles get to be the one and only character, well, I guess other than the Maker, who crosses over? Probably not.
Right.
And if that doesn't happen, then that means that Miles doesn't exist anymore and he's just fucking gone. It was such an alchemy of the moment, of the right writer, the right artist, I think also, and just the right situation that is so hard to come by. Punchline is the creation of James Tynion, but James Tynion is not at DC anymore in that way.
What you described, Sean, made me think of like Gods, Hickman and Valir Rashidi, who is a huge team, but it was only 8 issues. And those characters at the end of the eighth issue, it's like, oh, they'll show up again eventually. But those are all new creations by probably the hottest writer at Marvel at the time, but went nowhere.
Yeah.
In that example that you gave, Sean, I was thinking of Sojourner, like an outside talent comes in and builds a really strong character, great art team, but maybe the forward propulsion stopped there. There was no crossover with the larger universe because she was kept separate. She was kept Far Sector, right? Like she's
had crossovers.
She popped in here and there. Yeah.
But similar to the big crossover with Miles and into Mainline, like that level hasn't happened where it's a momentous occasion and it's marked by that occasion.
It's only been small bits and pieces that she's just starting to creep into the main line.
And that character's popular. Like the character's popular, great word of mouth. I think there's something to be built upon from that point. So there are definitely characters who can get over, but it's just the right combination, being able to identify that maybe preemptively.
We know that character, at least DC Publishing finds that character to be important because that was one of the launch titles for DC Compact books, was Far Sector. That was next to Court of Owls, All-Star Superman, and Watchmen. That is the level that publishing thought it could be pushed at. So
it's
there
the
is
Green Lantern book.
Yeah, especially for just mass media people.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows who Hal Jordan is anymore. So that can be. Yeah, I agree. I think that's Sojourner's a good character where like it hasn't happened yet. It doesn't look like it's happening yet, but it has potential.
This is what I say. This is my thought. You can't get too many characters over at the same time. It doesn't work. I think people sense it. when you do too much new at once, if a lot is going to fall through the cracks. We talked about Sideways. I made that reference. All those new creations that DC put out there, no one cares about them because it was too much too soon, and you can't really grab hold of that. Gods, in my opinion, same thing. You can't grab hold. I read all those issues, and I'm like, who should I care about? Why? What's their relationship to the greater? Like, I don't understand. But you take a character, 1, 2, 3, right? That you really want people to care about, and you integrate them into the larger story that's being told. What if Sojourner, since we're talking about her, had a role in Dawn of DC? And what if she had a role in Absolute Power? She's just one of the prisoners, shoulder to shoulder with Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, but she has meaningful dialogue and does something interesting. All of a sudden, you're putting her on the playing field with the characters that are selling in the hundreds of thousands or maybe the 50,000s. People have eyes on her now that simply didn't before, and she's rubbing shoulders with people you like. So then, when it's time for the movies and you do the Green Lantern movie and people like that, now you can backdoor her in because people like her from the books, and you can get her shoulder to shoulder with people that are in these movies. That's how you build a star.
You want the John Cena ruthless aggression tactic? just get the push by someone big by being near them.
It's the tactic that works in all integrated storytelling.
I think we've seen it over the years, albeit very slowly, with Blue Beetle.
Yep.
Are you kidding me? That's a phenomenal example.
Yeah.
He got a movie. Blue Beetle had a movie, live action, before Miles Morales,
Yep,
Miss Marvel, or Kamala Khan.
Yep.
Had her own movie. Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, these are bigger characters, we're told. He had a movie before Nightwing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. That's effort. And we need to see that effort applied to more characters. Not too many, but a few. That's all. My question is to the audience. Do you want new characters, or are you happy with the sandbox of characters that we have? And who is your favorite character to be created within the last 10 years? Now, that 10 years is going to eliminate Miles and Kamala. So you got to give me somebody different than that.
It's been
that
10
years is
years.
going to surprise you, so watch out.
It's going to be like
Right.
any damage heads out there.
Yeah.
Weapon what? Weapon H?
Oh,
Yeah.
God. Okay. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to subscribe, like the video if you enjoyed it, hit the notification bell. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.